All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about something pretty fascinating today, how a country can literally rewrite its own rules to unlock its potential. We're looking at Brazil, a place known for world-class science and its journey to turn that science into real, tangible innovation.
So, let's get to the heart of it. Back in the early 2000s, Brazil was facing this huge puzzle. It was a real head-scratcher. They had this incredible scientific community, but something was getting lost in translation. And here's what that looked like in a nutshell. On one side, you have Brazilian universities pumping out tons of amazing scientific research, getting published all over the world. But on the other side? Crickets. Very few patents, not many new tech companies. The engine was revving like crazy, but the car was barely moving. So this huge gap, this disconnect between what was happening in the labs and what was happening in the business world, it actually had a name. And it's a name that really captures the challenge Brazil was up against. It was called the Valley of Death. Sounds dramatic, right? But it's the perfect way to describe it. It's this place where brilliant ideas, born in a university, would go to die before they ever had a chance to become a real product or a service that could change things. So, what do you do when you're staring at a giant valley? You don't just give up, right? You build a bridge. And that's exactly what Brazil set out to do with its first major law on the subject way back in 2004. And this wasn't just some minor regulation. The Innovation Law of 2004 was a huge deal. It was the very first attempt to create a legal framework, a set of official rules to encourage public universities and private companies to actually work together.
Now, to build that bridge, you have to define the anchor points. So the law officially designated all universities and research institutes as ICTs, basically a formal name for the places where all the knowledge was being generated.
And here's the real game changer. The law made it mandatory for every single one of those ICTs to create a NIT, which is a technological innovation nucleus. You can just think of these as the professional bridge builders. Their entire job is to connect the smart people in the lab with the business folks who can turn ideas into reality. So let's imagine how this is supposed to work. A university team invents, say, a brand new kind of drone. The NIT steps in, helps them get a patent to protect the idea. Then they play matchmaker and find a company that wants to build it. And finally, the NIT handles the contract negotiations, making sure the university gets paid. It professionalizes the whole process.
Okay, so the bridge was built. Fantastic. But, it turned out that building it was one thing. Getting people to actually cross it was a whole different story. The path was pretty bumpy and, for a lot of people, kind of scary.
Yeah, the reality was not great. You had all this bureaucratic friction where innovation rules would clash with, say, public spending laws. University officials were genuinely afraid they'd get sued for working with a private company. And then there's the academic culture itself. Publish or perish, right? You get rewarded for papers, not for products. To top it all off, the NITs, our bridge builders, often didn't have the real power to get deals done.
So after more than a decade of these growing pains, of learning what worked and what really didn't, it was time for an upgrade. It was time for version 2.0. A new law was needed, one that could turn that bumpy bridge into a superhighway. I absolutely love this quote because it sums it up perfectly. The goal of the 2016 Marco Legal wasn't to start over. It was to take that original bridge and just make it better, wider, smoother, and with all the toll booths removed. It was all about getting rid of the friction.
And you can really see this evolution here. In 2004, the whole idea was just to make collaboration possible. But after 10 years of seeing what the real-world obstacles were, the focus in 2016 shifted to making collaboration practical, fast, and safe for everyone. So what did this version 2.0 actually change? Well, a lot. The Marco Legal sliced through red tape, making it way easier to hire people or import research equipment. It gave researchers amazing new freedoms, like being able to take a leave of absence to start their own company based on their invention. The NITs got a power-up with the ability to act more like independent businesses, and it fixed a huge money problem, making it clear that private funding could go straight to the university, not get lost in some government account. So, after all these legal fixes and upgrades, what does the innovation landscape in Brazil actually look like today? What does this mean for a researcher or a company trying to build something new? And this is why it matters so much. You're creating this positive cycle. Researchers are now actually encouraged to work with companies. Sharing expensive lab equipment is now a simple process, not a bureaucratic nightmare. The NITs can act like nimble deal makers, And companies know that when they invest in research, their money is going to the right place. The innovation highway is officially open for business. So Brazil has done the hard, tedious work of building a world-class legal highway for innovation. The road is paved, the rules are clear. The big question now isn't about the infrastructure anymore. It's about culture. It's about investment. What will it take to get more cars on this new highway, all driving Brazil's economy into the future? Well, that's the big challenge for the next decade.